I think you have a better shot now as an indie filmmaker than you did 4 years ago.
This is Truly Independent, a show that demystifies the indie film journey by documenting the process of releasing independent films in theaters. Each week, Garrett Batty and I, Darren Smith, will update you on our journey, bringing guests to share their insights into the process and answer your questions. Welcome, everybody. It's another episode of Truly Independent. We're excited to be here. Garrett, good to see you.
Darren, nice to see you. Thanks for joining for another episode.
Yeah, we're here again. We also have a guest with us, which I'm very excited for. Welcome, Greg Beckers, to the show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. We connected. Garrett, do you want to know where I met Greg?
Let me guess, Darren. I'm going to give me three guesses. The first two won't count. The third is LinkedIn.
Greg, for your sake, I'm a big proponent of LinkedIn and I have touted it heavily on the show as a place to connect with filmmakers. I would say almost all of the guests that I've invited on the show have been people that I've met from LinkedIn. So it's a great place for the film peoples to connect.
No, it's the best. I think any filmmaker should have LinkedIn. I think it's the best.
Yeah.
Darren's turned me into a believer. My profile isn't that great on LinkedIn, but I check it every once in a while. I should probably do it more.
There you go. So, Greg, can I ask you to give us a little intro as to who you are and your background, your foray into the industry and what you do now? And then we're going to follow your journey and pull out some highlights along the way. Tell us a little bit about you and your place in the industry right now.
Yeah, I did kind of a non-traditional way of going in there, I would say, because I'm from Belgium originally. I came to LA 13 years ago. And when I got here, I came here doing a completely different business. I was doing car logistics at the time, which is completely different industry, but, a lot of similar things because it's sales, basically. And when I got going here, my brother, who is an actor, had a manager, but wasn't super happy with it at the time. I was like, okay, why don't I give it a try? I can probably do it. You know what I mean? How hard can it be? Turns out it's a lot harder than I thought. I went about it looking in how to do it. Turns out there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through to even really get started as a talent manager. You can start a talent management company and call yourself a manager, but unless you're on the breakdowns and you're getting auditions, you don't have a business really. So getting on that was definitely a big hoop initially. You need recommendations. That took me 2-3 months just to get on that, to get the recommendations, to get to know enough people that would give me the recommendations. After about 2-3 months, I got on that, then started with about 7 clients originally. And then over 10 years, we grew it to, at its peak, around 70 clients. I had 2 managers working for me. We had 4 series regulars on Apple TV and Netflix. So it eventually grew. It was definitely the first 3 years was a slow growth because it's a lot harder than, I would say, a normal industry where you do sales, you make income. Because you're, as a manager, you're waiting.
So, Greg, just for the sake of helping me understand, what are you doing as a talent manager?
As a manager, compared to an agent, you're normally much more involved with their career. So you'll be the one helping them get reps. If they're looking for an agent, you're the one that introduces them to an agent. You see which one's the best fit. You're helping them with headshots, like which type of actor are you branding wise? Like what do you fit and do your headshots represent that? And then, of course, you're getting auditions. The big difference between an agent and a manager is that you're very involved with every little detail of their career and almost like part-time therapist in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Each for the therapy sessions.
That's part of the 10%. That's part of the management fee. Yeah. So as an independent filmmaker, I come to you or I say, I want such and such actor in my film. Am I working directly with you or an agent?
You're usually working with both. If I was an indie filmmaker, I would always go to the manager before I would go to the agent, funny enough.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have had experience with this as well, but it can be tough to get people to read something with some of the reps, right? Unless you're fully financed, sometimes they're like, come back to us when you're fully financed. Especially with agents, that's true. I find that managers in general will give it more of a look. They'll be more like, well, let me take a look at this and share it with my client because you have less clients usually. So as a manager, you have a smaller roster. As an agent, they have they have so many clients sometimes, and they're just constantly, pitching and working on auditions. A lot of times they don't have that much time, so they're not gonna take it that seriously always. I would probably always recommend going to the manager, but eventually, yes, you always have both of them included. Once the negotiations start, both of them are always included. Yeah.
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 Okay. If I'm saying I like such and such individual, or I'd love to reach out to so and so, I go to whatever IMDb Pro and find their manager name and reach out to the manager. Is that the workflow film?
Yeah, it's pretty much always through IMDb. You can see all their representation on the side there. And I know when I look, I always hope that they have a manager, to be honest, because I know I'm going to have an easier time talking to them than some of the big time agents. And I know they'll take more of a chance, especially on indie film.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to hijack the conversation, but I'm fascinated from an independent filmmaker standpoint. I just have a million questions. So,
Yeah.
so thanks for bearing with me. What does
Well,
that initial look like? What does that initial reach out like? Say, hey, I'd love to reach out to so and so. Am I sending you a letter? Is it an offer? Is it just a script? What's that pitch look like initially?
I think it also depends what level of actor you're reaching out to and what agency you're reaching out to.
Okay.
If you're reaching out to an actor that's a working actor, maybe he's done a series regular on something, on some network show or something, but he's not maybe like what you call an A-list name. It's not a huge name where you're like, oh, this is going to be hard to get him attached. If it's more of a working actor, you can actually most of the time get people attached just by reaching out, sending out the script, checking for interest, and you can attach them informally. That happens a lot now. So a lot of times now, and we just had this happen with our own film actually, they'll attach and they'll be like, once you're fully financed, then we'll start the negotiations on the money. You know what I mean? That's one way. Now, usually when they're bigger, the bigger you go, they'll won't attach without the money. You know what I mean? So especially like there's always
Yeah.
exceptions. If they absolutely love the script, the director, the team, there's always exceptions. There's no set rules in this, I would say. But I would say the bigger they are,
No rule.
there's no rules in that way. I think that's an important thing to remember for a lot of filmmakers. You don't have to think there's only one way to do it. I think you'll be surprised in this way that a lot
Yeah.
of reps will be flexible and will kind of just like, oh, okay, maybe we can do that. I think you have a better shot now as an indie filmmaker than you did 45 years ago because it's been so slow for a lot of people. I know so many actors, they're getting so few auditions compared to years ago. Right now, there's definitely a shortage in that way. So if I'm an indie filmmaker, this is a good chance to get someone on board because there's less work than there's ever been, less auditions than there's ever been. I do think right now is a really good time for indie filmmakers to attach talent.
That's awesome.
That's one thing I love about indie film. It is that kind of no rule, a little bit Wild West. When we were casting our last movie, I took a picture of the beautiful location. I thought that's gonna sell the actor, and sent that to him and said, "Hey, we want you here." I even chicken scratched on the picture. We want you here. These are the dates. Then he put us in contact with his people to make that happen.
Well, yeah,
And
I would
so
say what
yeah,
you're
I love it.
saying.
I love what you said.
I would say what's really important is making them feel wanted too. Like not just sending some standard pitch. The more you personalize it and make it feel like, hey, you're our first choice. This is what we did on the recent film, which was true. That he was our first choice. You're who we thought about right away when we read the script. This is why we feel like you fit this, and we'd love to talk to you about the character. I think that is more exciting for an
Yeah.
actor and feels good for an actor too, because what I learned in these 10 years working with actors is, man, they deal with a lot of rejection. They deal with so much rejection, and they're just hearing no 99% of the time. And you're waiting for people to say yes
Right.
to you and to basically want you. So it's like, yeah, when someone comes to them and it's like, hey, I've been thinking about you for X, Y, and Z, and this is why you have these qualities. It's like, yeah, that helps a lot because they're like, oh, this person believes in me. And even if it's a smaller budget indie, then they'd be like, oh, okay, but they seem to really know what they're doing and they're really invested in making this work with me. I think you can get a lot done, and I think you'd be surprised who you can sometimes get even on smaller budgets. Even there's a filmmaker I worked with that I'm selling his film, and he got J.K. Simmons on his movie.
Is that
Yeah,
right?
and their movie budget wasn't insane at all. Like, it was very indie. They got him for a couple days only. It was amazing, and they got him on board because he
Yeah.
got, like, J.K. loved the script, he loved the story, he loved the director, and that's why he came on board. So I think you can get a lot done if you start with a great script.
Yeah, that's fun to hear. Okay, so you did talent managing, doing that for a while, and then you start to say, "Hey, what about producing? What about helping actors start producing their own films?"
Almost 2.5, 3 years ago, I started helping a client of mine who's an actor. He had directed a film and he had a full feature, but he hadn't tried to sell it. A lot of actors and filmmakers don't have a huge idea on the business side of filmmaking. They don't know how the distribution works a lot of times. They don't know how the sales works. They don't know what a good deal is or a bad deal contract wise. There's quite a lot of that. And
So they're a distributor.
honestly,
Sorry,
no, honestly, look, that's
that
why
was a that was a free pop.
I would say the same. I think when I first started doing it, I was just shocked
Okay,
how much they were taking advantage of filmmakers, in my opinion. Some of these contracts are just horrendous how they're written and the
yeah,
costs that they put in there. And that's not all of them. There's definitely good distributors we've worked with that are really good, but I'm just talking there are always some that are not great. And I think when I started working with him, he had the film, and I looked at the film and I was like, this is solid. It's a small indie, but I think you could sell it. And I was like, why don't I try it? I'll take it out. I hadn't really done sales at that time, and I'll take it out. And I just started reaching out through going to AFM and reaching out to a bunch of distributors. I took it out to like I think I took it out to like 700 distributors, which is a lot. And there's a lot internationally. There's way more than that. I think there's like 3,000 distributors at least, and got them a minimum guarantee that was basically all their budget. So for them, they were really happy, and that's how that started. At the same time, I started getting into producing because of that. We made a movie about a year and a half ago with, rest in peace, Michael Madsen, as well as the creator of Final
oh,
Destination.
oh, wow. Okay, so you've been on this unique side of producing where it's like there's the good movie that we've made. Now, how do we position it? Either getting our good talent in or getting our good deals for the film, which is rare. That's awesome, Greg. S-
I love it.
My mind starts. So yes, I've been to the Cannes and the film markets and things like that. Seen the circus, the litany of distributors, all sorts of films and posters and everything. People are buying films or making deals based on a key art and a log line. When you're saying you're out there selling a film, are you walking that floor and meeting with distributors
Yeah, yeah.
in behalf of the filmmaker?
So that
What are you looking for to go, okay, this is a deal that I want to talk about?
minimum guarantees are always nice. We're always looking for that. When I start selling a
Yeah.
film, like right now, I'm still selling the J.K. Simmons film, for example. I'm taking their international rights and taking it to Germany, Japan, all the individual territories, and trying to get a minimum guarantee first. That is what I'm pushing the most, because sometimes you don't know how much money you're going to get with these rev share deals. There's filmmakers that have barely received anything on rev share deals sometimes. So to me, I'm like, okay, let's see how much cash we can
Yeah.
get up front, and then let's talk about the rev share deals. I would say in terms of deals, I'm always trying to get everything down. Whatever their distribution fee starts at,
Yeah.
I'm always trying to get that down 5 or 10%. They usually don't go down 10%, but they'll usually go down 5%. Then I'm trying to get their marketing cap down as well. Like, I've seen such a range of marketing cap. It's a little insane to me, but I've seen marketing cap as low as 3, 4K all the way to, like, I think the highest I've seen at one point was like 35K. And that's just marketing cap. So that's the money that they're taking before anything goes to filmmakers. I was telling a
Right.
friend yesterday, someone not in the film industry, breaking down how when you sell a film, who's getting their percentages, the distributor, the sales agent, and then the marketing cap. And he was like, that's insane. How does a filmmaker make money then? Well, that's the hard part. If you take bad deals, you're not making any money. We're always trying to get the marketing cap down. If not, we're definitely trying to get them to share exactly what it's being spent on, because, sometimes you see a marketing cap of 30K and you're like, what are you guys spending it on? And it's like, oh yeah, we're running ads and PR and stuff. And it's like, okay, but how do I know that? How can I see that? There are distributors that will actually be open to sharing it. There's a lot that won't. There are people that are just like, this is what it is. Then I try to get the number down. So if it's 30, I'll try to get it down to 15.
Yeah.
And
So Greg, I think there's something interesting in, like, you came from talent management and then said, I'm going to do sales, I'm going to do distribution, I'm going to do producing. And I've talked with a lot of filmmakers over the last year who are just trying to figure out, like, how do I do it?
Yeah.
And what it seems like is you've got the same answer as we do, which is you just decide that you're a producer and then you start solving the problems that are in front of you.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about, like, what kind of mindset shift or what kind of day-to-day changes did you have to make in order to go from talent manager to producer who's also handling sales and distribution?
I think the word you just used is the number one word, problem solving. That's basically what you're doing. If you're an amazing problem solver, anyone that's amazing at that can be a good producer. That's the number one skill. If you're someone that isn't rattled by chaos, which is what producing is. Even the movie we made was so chaotic. I mean, we had a lot of things go wrong. You always expect stuff to go wrong, And I think if you enjoy that atmosphere, and I grew up in a very chaotic upbringing, so that helps. I think for me, I like that situation. It's fun for me. It gives me an adrenaline rush. From talent management, what carries over is the sales that carries over. The problem solving and dealing with different personalities. I think that's huge. I mean, you guys know in film, you're dealing with such a wide range of personalities, more than any other industry. I've worked in different industries like B2B, and those personalities are pretty one tone usually. But film is not like that at all. You have such a wide range of personalities. So I think that does carry over from talent management because you're used to working with actors, and there's a lot of personalities there. So I think knowing how to communicate with different people and how to adjust how you treat this person and what will go over and how this person will take something, I think that's huge. I think that's a skill that comes with experience. But again, I truly believe that you don't need to do a traditional path to start as a PA on a film and work your way up. You can definitely do that, and being on set helps. But I think if you're business oriented and you've done business in the past, any type of business, and you're very good at problem solving and good with people, I think you can be a good producer. If this is what you love and you love films, and I love films, I watch so many films every week, just these indie films. Being on set is the best. I think that's the best time I have, being with people that are like all these dreamers that you don't get in other industries. I've worked in other industries and there's a lot of jaded people because they're not doing what they love. They're doing something purely for money. In film, you have a lot of people that still are believing in what they're doing and are doing it for the right reasons. Everyone wants to get paid, but it's a nice atmosphere. I love being on set. Filmmakers are awesome to work with. I love working with crew. They're super underappreciated sometimes. What crew does is amazing. Like the hours they do and how specialized they are, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah. So a quick follow-up to that question of how you did it. It seems like you're a proponent of people producing their own stuff, whether they're actors. I'm assuming that applies to if they're a writer, if they're a director. They also kind of need to take on that hat of, so when you're having a conversation with one of your actors, are you still doing talent management, or have you shut that business down to be full-time on the producing and distribution side?
I shut the talent management down about 6 months ago. So pretty recent.
So when you're having conversations with actors or filmmaker friends and you're saying, look, the answer is you need to start producing your own films, how does that conversation go for you?
It depends on who it is. I have actor friends that it goes over amazing and they want to do it and they just love to create. And there's people that are like, oh, I don't want to do that. I just want to get auditions and book something and be on set. I'd say it's a mix, but what you're saying from LinkedIn, I think I'm a big proponent of that. I talk a lot about making your own stuff, being involved with your own marketing and your own distribution, and being way more personally involved in that. And it's strange. Most people agree, I'd say, but there are always people that get triggered by that. They're like, oh, well, that's not my job. You know what I mean? That shouldn't be my job. That's the distributor's job. And da da da. And I think anyone, and the same with actors. Sometimes you get actors, well, that's not my job. Like the manager and the agent should be doing everything and getting me a job. And I think you're always going to have people like that are about what's my job and what's not my job. And I think those are the people that are going to struggle, especially how the industry is right now. I think people that are like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I can do X, Y, and Z and produce something myself, even if I'm acting, and I can create something myself. And if I don't know how, I can learn how to do it. Same with indie filmmakers. You can learn how to market, even if it's not something you're necessarily interested in, or at least partner with one person that's really good at that. But I think people have to start taking way more of a hand in their own career, actors and filmmakers, because there's no one distributor or no one manager that's just going to do everything and push your whole career forward.
Awesome.
You mentioned in looking for distribution deals, there are key indicators or things that distributors might be looking for. So as an independent filmmaker, I want to say, okay, what are those things that I need to do early on, or as I'm looking for distribution, that is going to really be attractive to a distributor?
Yeah. What I'm finding out right now, especially the last 2 years, is the genre is right now they care a lot about it. Like I've sold 2 dramas and they were a struggle to sell. Dramas are really hard, and distributors will literally come back and be like, we're not focused on that genre unless you have a really big name attached. Even J.K. Simmons wasn't big enough for them, which is crazy. They were very much like, we're not looking for that genre right now. So I think having some
Gotcha.
kind of niche, and I know you guys speak about this in your podcast as well, and you guys have made a film which is niche based as well, which I think is smart. You have target audience. So I think they want to see some type of like, what's your specific audience, not just people that love drama. You know what I mean? Like, what's your specific audience?
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that they're looking for. The amount of times I get feedback on people's trailer where they're like, oh, it's too long. I hope the film is better than the trailer. You know what I mean? And they'll still watch the film sometimes. Most of the ones I talk to, I'm not throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall. So if I'm sending them stuff, I do think,
Yeah.
okay, at least it's a good film. But yeah, the amount of times they talk about the trailer, and a lot of them want it shorter. That's weirdly a consistent note that so many distributors have given. Trailer's too long. And even sometimes with the film, I've had 2 films where they literally came back and were like, I just wish it was 10, 15 minutes shorter, which to me, like, I don't necessarily always agree with that. You know what I mean? But I hear where they're coming from. They're
Sure.
purely thinking, okay, well, if this shows up as 90 minutes, it's way more sellable than it shows up at 105.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, unless you're some name brand filmmaker or have a name brand star, people are just going to be like wanting to set everything down and watch what they're doing. Then maybe these initial indie films, it's okay to have a 90-minute movie and a 90-second trailer and be okay with that.
I would say even with the trailer, you should get feedback on the trailer before deciding that's your trailer. Sometimes filmmakers
Yeah.
love their own trailer, but you're so close to the project that it's hard to see clearly sometimes. The trailer is for selling. It's not some art piece. That's your film. Your film, do whatever you want. But I think the trailer, you need to be
Yeah.
focused on what's going to sell the best. And you need to get feedback. I don't think any filmmaker can do that completely by themselves because you're too close to it at that point, I think.
I have a distributor. My company, 3 Coin Productions, who produces this podcast, that we do trailers. I work with a distributor who refuses to let filmmakers create their own trailers. Not oftentimes a filmmaker has a skewed perspective of what each shot means that an audience who's totally unfamiliar with the story or the movie doesn't appreciate. This is, we'll show the trailer to the filmmaker, they can give advice or give feedback, but you need a professional, like a trailer company to cut your trailer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that does make a
I
difference.
completely agree. I think listening to that, and you can still have feedback and be involved, which I think you should. Sometimes I've also had distributors that want to change the title of the film. They're like, I don't think this title is marketable. And that's different. You can push back sometimes, especially if you really believe in the title. They don't always know everything. They're going off their experience. But if you truly think that title is the best title for your film and you're super adamant about that, you can push back. But I would always listen first and look at the trailer notes, look at the title notes, and be like, do I agree with this? Am I super attached to this? And then make a decision. I don't think you have to 100% change everything they're saying. I think you need to push back. At the end of the day, it's still your film, but I would listen to the advice and decide if it works. For the trailer, definitely be open to that. I think the title's different. I can see more attachment there.
Yeah, that's a good note. As a filmmaker, I've done 8 features, and it's always amazing. You come up with the title or whatever it is, the trailer, the concept, and then a distributor does come in, and there is that level of trust. And you think, look, there's you know thousands and thousands of movies out there and distributors, and if you've got one that is paying enough attention to your movie that they care about giving notes on the trailer and doing some market research on the title, that's usually something good to listen to. They are trying to get this movie sold a lot more than the filmmaker has been. So yes, I think listening to input from a distributor who's reputable and who is going to give you a return,
Yeah.
there's a lot of value in that.
I think that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've seen this a lot with our own films, Garrett, where like a financier, for example, may say that they know better than the director who's done it 8 times. Maybe you don't, because the director's been doing it for 20 years. And then, filmmakers that I've talked to that are like, well, I'm going to do it this way because I read something on Variety. It's like, yeah, but you've never done it. If you're going to try your own distribution or foreign sales, it may be valuable to talk to people who have done it dozens of times. There's a ton of value in that experience. They'll be able to say quickly, yes, no, this is working, this isn't working. That feedback's invaluable because they've had hundreds or thousands of reps at this stuff. Thinking you're going to do it better, your first crack is a little bit no.
I completely agree with that. I think marketing and sales is a different skill set. Depending on what type of filmmaker you are and how involved you are, if you're a filmmaker that's very involved in the marketing or you have some experience in that, that's different. But if you don't have any experience in that, I would definitely listen to the people that have been going to all these markets, that are talking to these buyers. They probably have some idea. It doesn't mean that they're always right, but they probably have some idea based on experience
Yeah.
compared to maybe someone that has no experience with it. I would definitely take that seriously, as hard as it is to sometimes change something, especially a trailer, because I know filmmakers, you get attached to the trailer that you make sometimes, and then getting a note like, hey, this doesn't work, we need to change this, is not the best thing to hear. But when you're at that stage, you're trying to build a career. If you're not making a return for your investors and you're not making a return on your film, then you got a huge problem. You're not going to have, in my opinion, a super long career unless you just keep finding people that keep
Yeah.
putting money in and then you don't make any money. I don't know how you would sustain a career if you're not making any money.
Yeah.
So I have a final question, unless there's more to talk about, but I do want to find out. It just left my mind. Hang on, Greg. I was reading your notes. Hang on, we're gonna.
You're good.
Darren. Oh, okay. Yeah, here's what it was. I'm an independent filmmaker. I've got my script. I've got funding, and we're ready to go into production. What is your pathway as a sales agent or a producer or distributor for recoupment? Is it possible through your foreign deals and minimum guarantees to recoup a budget of my $1 million indie?
I do think you need to get the right people on board, because I know people
Yeah.
that have gone with people that sell their movie and they show it to like 30 or 35 people. For most indies, that's not going to be enough. If you want to get the most return and hopefully maximize your minimum guarantees, you need to go out to almost everyone, or at least get someone on board that's going to go out to almost everyone that fits the movie. If you're going out to 1,000 distributors, that's a pretty good shot. You know what I mean? It's a lot of work. It takes a long time, but I think you have to do it because you don't want to sign up for some worldwide rights deal that's a rev share deal and you don't know if you're going to get any money. I think what I would recommend right now for most indie films, and there's always exceptions, like obviously if you get an amazing Shutter deal or some A24 deal or some amazing deal like that, then sure, give the worldwide rights away, especially if it's some kind of big MG. But otherwise, I think I would always split it up into territories. In general, that's my preference. Even for this indie we sold this past year, we got better minimum guarantees from foreign territories than we did from America. The US
Oh,
was
wow.
not giving us great deals, and
Yeah.
Germany ended up being our biggest one by far. There is money to be made internationally, even more than the US sometimes, because Europe especially they're big supporters of indie film. They have subsidies, they have grants, they have all kinds of things there that are just way more beneficial to indie filmmakers that doesn't really exist in the US. And I think there's a big risk aversion right now, especially in the US, to taking much risk on films. So you got to take it out everywhere, and you'll be surprised. Some countries that you're like, oh, that's not even a big country, but it all adds up. If you get 7, 8 minimum
Yeah.
guarantees in all these different countries, you might be closer to recouping everything instead of this one deal with one big distributor that doesn't give you a lot. And personally, I think it
Hmm.
spreads out your risk because let's say you go with a worldwide distributor, it's your first film and you don't know if they're going to be great for you or not. Maybe you didn't do a ton of research. A lot of first time filmmakers usually go about it like this. Then you give it to someone, and all of a sudden they don't do a good job. Now they have all your rights and they're not doing a good job. At least
Yeah.
if you have 6, 7 distributors on board, if one ends up not being good, then you still have these other ones that hopefully do a good job with it. So to me, I even like that in terms of
Kind of
spreading
awesome.
out the risk, just not having one person be solely responsible for my film. Unless it's some big company, like I have a friend that Shutter said they just gave a multi 6-figure deal to. So it's like, yeah, if you get a company like that, great. But otherwise, I'd say sell territory by territory, either if you're doing it yourself or you get some kind of sales agent on board, but do it and take the time, even if it takes 3 months, 4 months to sell the film. I would always do that.
Well, that's encouraging. Thank you so much.
Greg, where's a good place for people to connect with you if they hear this episode and they're like, dang, Greg's awesome. I need to talk to him about distributing my film or tips on talent management. Where do you direct people to go find out more?
Obviously, LinkedIn is always great. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. But then, there's my website as well, gregbeckers.com. Greg Beckers pretty much on all the social media. I have YouTube videos that I make as well because I'm trying to put more information out there for filmmakers. It's a weird gatekeeping industry sometimes. And I think there needs to be a lot more
Yeah.
access to information. If you're doing a good job as a company, you want all the information out there. The only way you would not want all the information out there is if you're doing shady stuff. So to me, I'm like, there should be more information out there. So I plan on sharing a lot more. At some point, I want to share a video literally going into a specific contract so filmmakers can see the nuts and bolts on what I think is good and what's not good. So you know what you're looking at. I would say, yeah, Greg Becker's on all the social medias and the website, and that's probably the best way to contact me.
Awesome.
Okay. When you do that contract breakdown episode, let us be a co-episode with you on that because that'd be fascinating.
That'd be cool.
Man, this has been very enjoyable. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. I know our listeners who are watching on YouTube can see Greg. If you're just listening on podcast channels, go to gregbeckers.com.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks,
And
Greg.
I'll definitely be cool to make that video together because I'm sure we'd all have thoughts about these contracts.
I've got several that we could put on and just kind of brutalize them, or at least say,
No, we
this
should
worked.
do that. We should grab
Yeah.
one of the worst ones
Okay.
and we'll take the name out. But like, we'll look at one of the worst ones and be like, this is what a terrible contract looks like.
I love that idea. Okay. Stay tuned for another upcoming episode with Greg Becker.
Thanks, guys.
Boom. Thank you for listening to this episode of Truly Independent. To join us on the journey, be notified and ask us questions about today's episode, head over to 3coinpro.com/podcast and put in your name and an email address. If you're a fan of the show, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast app and be sure to share this. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Our intro and outro music is Election Time by Kjartan Abel.